What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another really cool knife to show you. This is the Artisan Cutlery Premium Falcon. There are two versions of this. It's important to note this version here in M390 steel, titanium, and a carbon fiber inlay. You can see here on the other side. We're showing M390 for the steel. They also have a sort of a budget line. This version actually comes in D2 and G10. Now that version of the knife runs, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around $60. This version of the knife runs $225. This knife was provided directly by the manufacturer to the pass-around group that I'm a part of, so I appreciate that very much. As always, I'll try not to let that affect my review of this knife, but there's going to be a lot of things to say about this, and I'm really excited to get into it. Let's go ahead and get some measurements here real quick. Overall length on this guy is going to be about 8 and just shy of 8 3/4 overall. So this is a big knife. Overall blade length looking like it wants to be 4 inches. It's going to be just shy of 4 inches. The cutting edge on this guy is going to be 3 3/4 inches. So this is, again, like I said, a very big knife. Size comparison with the Ontario Rat Model 1. You can see Rat 1 coming in just a little bit shorter at 8.6 inches overall. How about the Spyderco Paramilitary 2? Spyderco PM2 coming in at about 8.3 inches overall. How about the Benchmade Griptilian? Benchmade Griptilian coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, the Spyderco Delica. Delica coming in at about 7 inches overall. Let's go ahead and get some weight on this guy. Close her up here, give you a demo of that action. Nice and smooth, even though I was kind of shaky with it. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a sec. Okay, weight on the Falcon, 5.75 ounces. This is unmilled titanium. Not surprising that it's a little bit on the heavy side. Flip it over, get another read. 5.71 ounces. So 5 3/4 ounces is what we're looking at there. Definitely heavier than what most people are used to carrying. Let's go ahead and do the paper cut test. As usual, the paper cut test is not a definitive cutting test. It's really just designed to give you an example of the edge sharpness right out of the box versus the PM2 seemingly being the universal standard for sliciness. Some of you are going to get something out of this and some of you won't. Let's go ahead and take a pass of the PM2. Very slicey, of course. And the Falcon also slicey. A little bit of resistance, but that's due to the nature of the blade. This is a Wharncliffe blade, so you don't have belly. So you're essentially just taking a wedge of steel, even though, I mean, the PM2 is a wedge of steel as well, but there's no curvature to the blade, so you're just pressing that straight edge directly into paper. But even still, it felt about 80%. The PM2. So the blade is sharpened very, very well. I have no qualms with that whatsoever. Let's go ahead and get these paper chunks off the table as efficiently as possible. And let's get into the anatomy of the blade. So what we've got here is, like I said, a nearly 4 inch, probably a 3.75 inch blade of M390. And you can see how nice those grind lines are. This knife to me is very ZT-esque. Makes me think of the Wharncliffe series through the 0392 series that was the Hinderer collaboration. In fact, those of you who really have felt like you need to scratch that itch and you don't want to pay the $550 to $650 secondary market prices for those ZT 0392 Wharncliffe models, boy, is this an amazing alternative at $225. That Wharncliffe is beautiful. You can see there. Let me give you another look. By the way, I adjusted my table here so the lighting is a little bit darker because I noticed it was really, really bright in some videos. Let me know if this is better or worse. I don't know if it's going to quite be as sharp, but you guys let me know if you like this better or worse. But anyways, really nice. You can see the grind lines on the flats here. Are really, really nice. I'm sorry, not grind lines. They're like the satin finished flats. that run horizontally. It looks really nice in contrast to the vertical grind lines on the blade. You can see there how the tip comes down. Looks just really nice all the way around. Kind of sharp, not really. I mean, they've been rounded just a little bit. The action on this guy is incredible. We're skipping ahead just a little bit, but where this knife really makes me feel or think ZT is the flipping action and the sound. I mean, that mixed with the aesthetics of this knife, you know, it kind of feels like Wii fit and finish. You know, I used to think like ZT had like the best fit and finish for, I don't want to say these types of knives because I can't really define what I'm saying by these types of knives. But after handling a couple of Riots and Wiis, I just feel like they kind of do it a little bit better. So it's very ZT-esque, but with Wii or Riots fit and finish. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting here, you know. Everything, the blade's perfectly symmetrical. It's sharpened really, really well. Moving down to the frame here, you have this very odd pivot, but you do have an adjustable torque side pivot, and I imagine there's something in there, whether the barrel's D-shaped or whatever, to keep it from free spinning. So that's fine. It's kind of a decorative front side pivot. On this version, we've got the matte finished regular titanium, but they do come in blue, green, pink, black. As far as I saw, just a quick glance. Coming down to the inlay here, this is a carbon fiber inlay that's held in with 2 screws. Interestingly enough, they do the filler tab thing, which, you know, I kind of thought was like a Rick Hinderer only type deal, but here's what's more bizarre about it. So the pocket clip comes in a standard position of tip up, right hand. Now, if you want to mount it left hand, it can only be tip down. When you take that filler tab out and swap it, there's no position for the pocket clip down here. So it's either tip up right hand or tip down left hand. Those are your 2 options. I have never seen a knife that gives you only those 2 options. I can't fault it too much. I don't really like, you know, if it has to be tip down, I really don't like tip down on a flipper because of how it's going to sit in your pocket, and that flipper tab being up against something, you run the risk of it, you know, bumping and then coming out like this. So I don't really like that. But, you know, whatever. At least there's an option for left-handed people, so that's fine. The carbon fiber looks really, really nice. You've got these grooves in here, these little, you know, they're like ridges, and they add, you know, kind of some shadow and some light dancing effects on the inlay itself, and they also add for a little bit of traction, a little bit of texturing. Not much, but it's there. It's something to feel, you know, when your fingers wrap around to the handle. There's a nice, I don't quite know what the scallop is here. It might be just an aesthetic line, but there is a nice cutout that allows you to easily get your thumb in there to disengage the frame lock and retract the blade. So that's really nice. In fact, one-handed disengagement and deployment on this knife is really great. There's enough room to get your thumb in there. The blade does fall past the detent ball, and then you can pretty much allow it to free drop back into its position here. This knife does run on bearings. The detent is absolutely 100% perfectly tuned for the deployment of this blade. Locks out solid. No blade play up, down, left, or right. Sorry, dimension or my depth perception here looking through the camera is not perfect. The blade did come perfectly centered. Let you take a look at that lock up there. Lock up probably around 25%. There is a steel lock bar insert that also acts as the over travel stop. You can see there. It also kind of tucks behind the inlay. That's interesting. Really, really nice all the way around. You can see they decided to put Artisan Cutlery there on the titanium backspacer, as well as add the lanyard hole as a part of the backspacer. So that's always nice. Really the only thing that I don't like about the aesthetics of this knife, there's 2 things that I find odd. The pocket clip is absurdly boring. In fact, it doesn't even seem to match with the rest of the knife at all. Like no part of it does. It's just a simple pocket clip. I mean, it functions just fine, but if you look at the lines for the rest of the knife, I mean, the one thing that sticks out like a sore thumb is that pocket clip. They could have done something really, really interesting with it, and they just didn't. The pocket clip functions just fine. You know, it's really hard for me to fault it too much for that, but it just seems like a missed opportunity. Another thing that I find really odd is their choice to anodize the filler tab, just the filler tab. I don't know. Some people might like that. I don't I don't see this as a knife that, is going to try to do the Rick Hinder modular part thing where you've got a whole bunch of different colored filler tabs you can put in there. So it just seems kind of bizarre and out of place that they would do that. Especially if like all the matte finished titanium models have blue anodized filler tabs, or maybe they all have blue filler tabs, or maybe they each have a different color filler tab. I don't know. But I feel like, the filler tab should be the same color as the rest of the frame, and then if they wanted, I guess if they wanted to sell additional colored filler tabs for people who wanted to scratch that Rick Hinder itch, they could do that. But I don't know. I don't think they would do that. But that just seems bizarre to me. I'm not sure why they would do that, really. But truthfully, those are my two only qualms. I mean, this is okay. So this is a big knife, and it's a heavy knife, and that's going to turn a lot of people off right away. It's very, very aggressive looking. This is not a knife that I would recommend for like office EDC or anything like that. But for those of you who like to carry those medium, large size knives, and maybe you're going to do, I guess you're going to do more hardcore cutting tasks than you would see in an office. I wouldn't put this on the same level as an XM24 or any of the Cold Steel Triad lock knives, but I mean, if you were going to cut boxes all day, every day, I think this would make an excellent knife for that. Really, though, to me, this is just another example of a Chinese manufacturer. By the way, these knives are made in China. These are not made in the United States. Another example of a really, really good Chinese manufacturer making a knife with excellent fit and finish and excellent tolerances. The action's great. The finishes, or the finish on the blade, the finish on the handles, the fitment of everything. I mean, you can see here this inlay, how well it fits all the way around. We don't have any ugliness or any gaps or anything like that. It just looks really, really nice. It's just another example, on top of we and Riot of a company like this, able to do this. And at $225, it's really hard to argue. A carbon fiber inlay set into titanium on M390 with this level of fit and finish, $225 is a fair price, honestly. The flipper tab is in a nice place. It's shaped really, really well. It's comfortable. You can see there's a little tiny bit of jimping up there. You can light switch it, or you can push button it. It's very, very comfortable. Ergonomics are excellent on this guy. There's no jimping back here, no jimping up on the blade. Not sure that this particular knife needs it all that much, but this is just a really, really well-made knife. I mean, if you're looking for a nice Wharncliffe and you missed out on those ZT0392 models, or maybe you don't really care about that, you just want a really nice Wharncliffe flipper on bearings, this is a really handsome looking knife. It didn't do anything too crazy besides the weird anodized filler tab. It kind of is straightforward, but it looks really nice, really classy all the way around. This is like, it's a very aggressive, classy knife, I suppose, is the best way that I could put it. But yeah, if you're planning on using this knife, and your day-to-day stuff requires you to open a lot of packages or break down a bunch of boxes, yeah, I think this is an excellent choice. Wharncliffe style blades have, it's one of those blade styles where it really depends on who you're talking to, what it's meant for. A lot of people will say Wharncliffe blades are exclusively meant for self-defense. I do not care about self-defense at all. You'll never hear me really go into that on this channel because I don't care. Knives are tools to me. That's it. Yeah, that tip is really, really good for getting into packages or getting through tape, so that's kind of, to me, what I think of when I see a Wharncliffe blade. It looks like it looks like an extended utility blade. That's just what I think of. But if this is what you've been looking for, if you've been looking for a really nice Wharncliffe style blade, check out the Artisan Falcon. And here's a nice thing: you don't have to drop $225 on this if you don't want to. If you want this design and you're okay with G10 and D2, well, you can spend about $60 and get that version. I really, really like this knife. It's hard for me to recommend this to everybody because of how large it is and the style of blade. So I don't know that I'm going to put this on my most recommended knives of all time list, but It is an excellent knife, and I just can't think of any other negative things to say about it. I've enjoyed carrying it. I've definitely enjoyed flipping it. For those of you wondering, where I would rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 for fidget factor, I definitely rate it a 10. This is an awesome knife to flip and retract just over and over and over again. It feels nice. The blade is nice and heavy. You get that satisfying sound when the blade locks out. I'll do it for you here. That is definitely there on this knife, and it's nice, it's very enjoyable. So anyways, that's going to be pretty much it for this knife today, guys. I don't know that there's really a whole lot else I can say. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.